Is identity theft preventable in today's always connected society? I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet and Tech Republic, and joining me is Adam Levin, founder of Cyberscout and author of the book, Swiped: How to Protect Yourself in a World Full of Scammers, Phishers, and Identity Thieves. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Give us a brief summary of your resume, including why you started Identity Theft 911 and now Cyberscout.
I'm a lawyer by training. I was involved with politics for many years and government service, ran twice for the United States House of Representatives. I was Consumer Affairs Director for the state of New Jersey for 5 years. I've been involved in real estate development. I created a company called Credit.com, which was an educator, an advocate, and a marketplace for products and services. And then in 2003, I created a company called Identity Theft 911. And this company was the first ever organized around the core competence of resolution, putting people back together again after they had horrendous identity incidents. And we're not a direct-to-consumer organization. We're B2B2C, which means we work with businesses. So the only way that a consumer can get to us is actually through an insurance company, a corporation, a financial services organization, or their employer. And we do everything from identity theft education, resolution, identity management, breach preparedness, breach response, forensics, and election security.
Is identity theft preventable in today's connected society?
You know, we'd love to believe that you could prevent identity theft. Certainly, there were a lot of people out there claiming good, and they all got into trouble. The truth of the matter is we're living in an era where breaches have become the third certainty in life, and the cyber wars replaced the Cold War. So you could do everything right, but if you're on the wrong database at the wrong moment and the wrong person gains unauthorized access and your social security information is on that database, which hundreds of millions of people have had that issue, you're going to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life. And so the theme of Swiped, and the theme that I have been preaching actually for all these years, is that you have to think of it in terms of what I call the 3 M's. How do you minimize your risk of exposure, reduce your attackable surface? How do you effectively monitor? And then how do you manage the damage? What's your plan?
How are IoT devices used as attack surfaces for identity thieves?
Well, if you think about it, we have billions and billions, that's Dr. Evil, pinky to the lips, billions and growing, multiplying by the day, of these devices worldwide. And they are connected. And unfortunately, they are points of vulnerability. The hackers can use them to crawl into our lives, into our networks. They are also gathering information about us and then aggregating it and sending it back to whomever the manufacturer is. And where they're a real problem is they can be recruited to be part of a botnet, a robot army. They could bring down websites. They could spread malware. So they're dangerous, and they all come with manufacturer default passwords that are for sale as we speak on the dark web.
How can we tell if an IoT device firmware is actually even patchable?
Well, that's tough. You really have to find out from the manufacturer if it is or not. Many of them cannot be updated automatically. Many of them, many of them don't update automatically. You may have to update them yourselves when you find out that there's a patch that's available. And it's sometimes a process to even find out if there is a patch available. Many of them come with these manufacturer default passwords that can't be changed. Some can be changed, but the issue is it's not a simple process. Now, I frankly think there should be a law passed that says they have to have minimum security requirements, and one of those security requirements is that they cannot even function unless a consumer enters a customized, personalized password that's long and strong.
What companies are actually doing a good job with IoT and mobile device security?
I can't even tell you that. I'm not I don't really specifically identify companies, but I will tell you that based on the world as it is, companies have not done a great job. As a matter of fact, a lot of these companies, they're more concerned about how do I create something cool that can be connected, that is the newest, shiniest object, and security is always pushed to the back, because when you run into the conflict between convenience and security, convenience always seems to trump security because it slows things down. It doesn't make it quite as cool as it can be. It puts a burden on consumers, uh, but sometimes the burden is worth it, because at the end of the day, we have to protect ourselves. We have a shared responsibility with government and business, and frankly, nobody's done enough.
What was the fallout of the Equifax data breach? What were some of the second and third order consequences?
Well, let's start with the presumption that 150 million Social Security numbers and extremely detailed profiles of individuals were unleashed into the ether. Now, it was a watershed moment because this is an iconic organization and this is what scared everyone half to death. But it wasn't the floodgate, because the truth of the matter is that over the past many years, we have seen thousands of breaches and millions upon millions of Social Security numbers that were compromised just in 2015 alone. Between Anthem, Primera, Excelis, and the United States Office of Personnel Management, you had over 120 million Social Security numbers that were out there. Now, that's not to say that there weren't duplications, but what it did is it opened people to every possible form of identity theft, whether it was account takeover, new account creation, medical identity theft, child identity theft, tax-related identity theft, employment fraud, federal benefits fraud, or people committing crimes with the trail of breadcrumbs leading back to the consumer. So the truth of the matter is that as much as we would, all like to point to that as that moment, the reality is that our personal identifiable data has been long in the criminal food chain, like a shoal of plankton waiting to get scooped out.
In one of your blog posts, you talk about the stupid things organizations do with connected devices. Talk a little bit about the Fitbit story.
Well, the Fitbit story is, and in particular, this was a situation involving the military, at least this is one of them, where in the procurement process, people weren't really thinking about how do we bake security into the procurement process? How do we look at something and say, what could possibly go wrong? And here's a situation where you had men and women deployed on bases overseas. Many of them were supposed to be not instantly identifiable. And the information was there that someone could get that information and use it to track back to where people were. Especially, you saw them moving, but then you saw them stopping and staying for particular periods of time. So you could begin to intuit that they were someplace that you wanted to know more about. And this is just one example of the fact that everywhere we turn, we are surrounded by things that can be points of vulnerability for people who don't have our best interests in mind or the best interests of our country in mind.
With the holiday season fast approaching, what advice do you have for consumers looking to give technology as gifts?
Well, first, think about what you want to give. And when you get something, think about what you got and think about ways that you can make sure that you are more bulletproof than you would be if you did nothing about it. So first of all, people have to be, careful what they buy and where they buy it, because there are websites that will appear during holiday seasons and other high traffic online times of the year that are fake. There are apps that are created by hackers that are fake, but they're presented as the newest, coolest, best, shiniest thing that people will be attracted to, but they're not necessarily going to a recognized app store, and they're downloading these apps into their devices. And these apps could be putting malware on their devices that creates ransomware issues, or malware that creates vulnerabilities that are keystroke logging devices, so that anytime you log in to anything, that information is being transmitted to the hackers. And then when you buy something, say to yourself, how secure is this device? Is this something where facial recognition is involved? Is it something where other biometric authentication points are involved? Or is this something that's kind of plug, play, turn it on, and don't worry about it? Because the problem is that we need to worry when there's nothing to worry about in the world we live in, because there's everything to worry about.
Adam Levin, founder of Cyberscout and author of the book Swiped: How to Protect Yourself in a World Full of Scammers, Phishers, and Identity Thieves. Thanks again for joining, Adam. And if somebody wants to connect with you, maybe they want a copy of your book, how can they do that?
They can come to adamlevin.com, and they can also link up with me on Twitter. It's Adam_K_Levin.
Thanks again, Adam. And if you guys want to find more of my interviews, you can do that right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or go to my website, tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.